Okay, tell me honestly, what's the first image that comes to your mind when I say the word self-care? Pause the video and put it in the comments. Because when I think of these words, the first image that comes to my mind is a girl getting her nails done, going to the spa, indulging in some retail therapy, has a lot of skincare products laid out in front of her, doing her skincare or going to bed in this super nice silk gown. And I don't know if all the guys have the same image of self-care in the mind, but I can bet a lot of women think the same way. And I think this is extremely problematic because over the last years, social media, newspapers, articles, all of them have bombarded us with this word called self-care. It's almost become like a buzzword. But I see a huge problem with this definition of self-care because all of these things, number one, come with a price tag, and number two, are external. Things that are external experiences that make us feel good from the outside. But does it really nourish us from the inside? And that is what today's video is about. Exploring what self-care can look like when you build a foundation which makes you feel good and cared from the inside rather than the outside. Because that's where I feel you'd be the best version of yourself internally in the longer run. And for me, this topic is extremely special because for the longest time, I ignored self-care. I was someone who saw self-care as a waste of time because I was chasing hustle culture, productivity, traveling all the time, working and chasing this goal. And as you all know who subscribe to me here, I burnt out so badly last year. And the first thing I did was turn to these definitions of self-care. Like I went for a massage, I went to go shopping, and then I realized this is not making me feel better. Yes, it makes me feel good temporarily, but it's not fixing my problems. So I realized that there's something wrong there and I need to explore better habits to take care of myself. So in today's video, I want to introduce you to the 6 micro habits of self-care that I call the big smalls of self-care. Now these are very small habits, but they leave a big impact on your lives. So I'd say stick till the end of the video, hear out all the habits so together we can redefine the meaning of self-care. Let's go. Okay, but before I talk about the first point, have you subscribed? Ask yourself this question. There are so many people who watch my videos but leave without subscribing. So now I'm waiting. Please subscribe so that I'm motivated to make more videos and I understand what you like, what you don't like, travel, self-care, development, what is it? Okay, so as promised, our first big small habit is to become a lazy worker. Okay, but I realized the secret to having lesser stress nowadays is not by working harder, but by working smarter. I don't know if you relate, but over the last years, I have constantly felt like there is too much to do and there is just no time. Like 24 hours in a day are just not enough. And it's not just me, no matter who I speak to, like my friends, my family, everyone seems to be running behind. Even though they all have different situations, different jobs, they all feel like they have too much to do, too much pressure, expectations, commitments, but no time to fulfill it all. And so I started wondering, where are we going wrong? Because it's impossible that everybody is so busy. That's when I came across this book called Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. And I'm still reading this book and it has helped me immensely. Just think about it. Back in the day, in our grandparents' generations, things were still the same. I mean, news existed, family commitments existed, jobs existed, but you know what didn't exist? Information overload. They didn't have access to their parents texting them all the time or their boss telling them to do something at 9 p.m. or someone texting you and being like, hey, we had to do a video call today, and then another friend saying, hey, but when are you coming to play paddle with me? Like, there are just so many things coming at us all the time and there's an information overload and there's only so much that we can store in this little brain of ours at one point of time, which is why we need to become a lazy worker and stop relying only on this little brain of ours. And the 2 ways to solve this problem of feeling overwhelmed all the time is number 1, defining all my small tasks as actionable steps. So a lot of us have to-do lists or we write down things somewhere and then we either forget about it or just write it in a very bad way. So usually I would say if I need to call my mom, I would just say, call mom, cook dinner, finish work. That's it. Not defined clearly. You don't know what the steps are, nothing. Whereas if you just redefine it as call mom at 9 p.m. Cook dinner, meal prep, what dish are you cooking? And finish XYZ task. And then in your head, when you're writing this down, also try to break it down into actionable steps. So let's say when I had to film this YouTube video, I thought about, okay, I need to put up my tripod, I need to set my camera up, I need to put a light behind there, and I need to clear up my desk. And suddenly my task seemed a lot more doable rather than feeling very overwhelming, like, oh my God, I need to film a video, what all do I need to do? There's so much to do. No. There's not a lot to do if you break it into these smaller steps and think about it that way. And the second thing that adds to this point is creating a reliable system to store all that information in your head somewhere else and let your brain chill for a bit. And I found the easiest way to do that is in two ways. Number one is by setting a nice to-do list app on your laptop and phone, which works in sync, and a notebook, a literal notebook where you can just write down something, keep it next to your bed and keep it in your living room somewhere, so that whenever you think of something, you can just put it down over there and then you can come back to it later and give it a look every single day at the end of the day. If you need to order something, if you need to call someone, you need to go out for a game somewhere, get things out of your mind and out on a reliable system, because honestly, you will never remember to do something when you're actually supposed to do it. So yeah, to conclude, habit number one is become a lazy worker. Stop clogging your brain with all this information and start putting it out somewhere in an actionable way. Okay, my next big small habit is kind of related to the first habit, and I came to this conclusion after thinking about when was the time when I felt the most stress-free in life. Like, you also think about it, please. But for me, it was either when I'm hiking in the mountains, I love it so much, or when I was like 13 years old. I didn't have a phone, no social media, nothing, and we used to go out and play every day, and we had like 5 p.m. everyone would meet, play basketball for 2 hours, and then you come back home, you're exhausted, and then you go to bed, you eat good food. So amazing. And I think the one link that I found in these times is when you're phone free. And I made an entire video on it about how I reduced my screen time, which helped me reduce stress. But I do feel that being phone free completely is impossible. I mean, we all know that. But what we can do is take out intentional time to be away from our phones. And I've tried this out in all ways. I've tried doing this like once a week, where you don't use your phone at all, once a month, 1 hour every day, and 1 hour before going to sleep. And in my opinion, the intentional time that works best for me is right before going to bed. Because I think when you're ending your day on a positive note, taking care of your mental health, focusing on yourself, your relationships, your hobbies, you just feel so much better and gratified. And you truly feel like, oh my God, I'm doing something for myself. So I would say build a habit of creating a phone out hour right before you go to sleep. So nowadays, my partner and I, we basically keep our phones away between 9 to 9:30 p.m. because we go to bed at around 10:30. We've told everyone, our friends, family, that okay, 9 p.m. I turn off my phone, so don't text me because I will not reply. And in that time, we do different things. Sometimes we read, sometimes we go out for a walk, just talk, chill. And it honestly feels so good, because when I go to sleep, I'm not feeling stressed. I'm not thinking about anything, and I'm just like chilling, and it just feels great. So you could do so much. You could color, you could paint, you could read something, listen to an audiobook, do anything but look at your phone right before sleeping. And this is quite easy because you can just leave your phone outside your bedroom in your living room and then go away and turn it off. So you don't feel a compulsion because work is over, everything is done, and you can just let it be. And the biggest change that I've noticed since I've started doing this is a huge improvement in my quality of sleep and stress levels. So if you're constantly feeling tired and overwhelmed, in addition to a nail spa, also include a phone out hour. Habit number 3 on the list is called 5-minute tidy out. And it's crazy that I read an article just 2 days ago that supported my habit. But basically, a study published recently found that individuals who identify their houses or spaces as cluttered always experienced a higher level of the stress hormone cortisol throughout the day. Which is crazy, because that means that tidying up and cleaning your house isn't just about aesthetics, but it can actually influence how you feel mentally as well. And here's why I recommend it. Number 1 is it gives you a sense of accomplishment. So when I start my day, I quickly make my bed, and when I end the day, I clean the kitchen area, clean my table, and leave it kind of ready for the next day. And it just makes me feel so happy. It feels like I've done something for myself. It looks clean, it gives you the sense of pride. And number 2, creating a clutter-free space equals creating a clutter-free mind. And trust me, there's a psychological effect called the clean space, clean mind effect, which literally means that when your space is clean, your mind feels less stressed, less overwhelmed, and more focused. And the best part is that all these habits are completely free. They cost nothing, but you feel so good after. Like, tell me, if you've cleaned your space recently, and once you're done and you look back and you're like, this feels so good. And this moment of self-care is what we're chasing with this habit. The next habit that's absolutely transformed my life is giving myself a high five. So I love Mel Robbins and I listen to her podcast all the time, and she talks about this, about how we need to wake up every morning and give ourselves a high five, which basically literally means you look at yourself in a mirror and you give yourself a high five. Kind of like, hey, let's go, get this day. It's not about like saying, I find it a bit strange to say like many positive affirmations or manifestations and stuff like that. Like, I love talking to myself positively now, but the best thing that I love doing is literally giving myself a high five before whatever I'm doing and being like, we are in this together, you and I. We're together, we're going to do this is going to be amazing, high five. Because over the last years, the one thing that I've really struggled with is negative self-talk. Every time I couldn't get something done, if my videos didn't perform well, or I simply didn't feel like working, I would constantly tell myself that I'm failing, I'm lagging behind, soon everything will cease to exist, and I am not lovable. And all of these things are such negative things to say to yourself over the smallest little inconveniences in your life. And one very good angle to think about when you're in such situations is, how would you speak to your best friend if they would be in a sticky situation, or if they would have failed or done something wrong? Would you be like, hey, your videos aren't doing well, you're going to fail, you're never going to succeed, stay there? No. You're probably going to go to them and be like, hey, why are you sad? Everything is fine. You're amazing. And when you say this, you're not saying that just to make them feel better. You're saying that because you genuinely believe that. You believe that about your friends and you treat them with love, care, and respect. But when we talk to ourselves, we completely forget all of that love, care, and respect and come with a very critical eye. Which is why giving yourself a high five every morning and thinking of yourself as a best friend in the moments where you mess up or maybe you're lagging behind is a very powerful change that you can make in your life and truly take care of yourself. Because how you talk to yourself internally when no one's looking at you is how you project yourself externally to the world as well. Because once I started treating myself with the same level of kindness, it was so much easier to let go of the guilt and feeling bad. And one way to make this very actionable for you is kind of changing your thoughts. So rather than next time when, let's say, you can't finish a book, you're like, I'm so bad at this, I can never do anything right. You would say something like, oh my God, I'm trying to pick up a new habit. I'm still learning. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Or saying, I always mess things up. Say something like, okay, everyone makes mistakes. If I don't make mistakes, I'm not going to learn and I'm not going to grow. And it changes so much. Like, can you see the difference and the power between those two lines? It's like, it makes a world of a difference. So start putting high-fiving yourself and making your thoughts more constructive into action. Now, my habit number 5 is taking a shot of nature. And this has to be my favorite micro habit that truly transform your moods, which basically just means that you step outside somewhere where you can see greenery, where you can see the sunlight. If you can't see either, literally just getting out of your house, getting fresh air. Mood changer, game changer, makes you feel so much better. And I am not saying this, literal science says this. There's literally a term that I read about called biophilia, termed by a biologist, which says that human beings feel inclined and a lot better after they connect with nature and also natural organisms. And I think this is so true, because every single time I go on a mental health walk, literally out of my building, there's like a small little pathway with trees around, I feel better. So it doesn't have to be a big hike. You don't need to say that, oh my God, I live in a big urban jungle, there's literally nothing here, only buildings. No, nature can be anything. I'm sure everybody has a park close to their house, or if you step down, there'll at least be 2 trees. Just go and stare at those trees. Colors like green, blue, yellow, they make us feel better. These are happy colors that release happy hormones. Along with those ginger turmeric shots that all of Instagram says we should start taking, I think we also need to start taking a nature shot every day. And finally, habit number 6. If you have been a part of my community, you know I will never end a video without talking about movement. I am so passionate about this topic because I think this is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. And I'm not saying exercise, I'm saying movement. There is a huge difference, because exercise is something you need to do, you need to plan. And again, I have another video on how to make that less daunting for you. But movement is something that can be so easily incorporated in your life. You don't need to make an extra plan, buy a gym membership, go to a park. No. Movement is different. It doesn't need to be planned. You can move around the house while you cook. You can put on your favorite song and dance for 5 minutes. You can, of course, go down and walk. You can meet a friend and be like, hey, let's move together today. There are so many different forms of moving your body, and that is why I love this habit so much, because this is an instant way to reduce cortisol, aka our stress hormone, improve your blood circulation, and enhance your overall mood. So whenever I do my habit of tidying up the place, I also incorporate a lot of movement. So I walk from here to there, I clean everything, and I feel so good. And so whenever I try to incorporate anything in my day, I always think about the fact that, okay, which part of my day am I moving my body? And I love movement so much because it genuinely transformed my life in so many different ways. Because there was a time when I genuinely was diagnosed with clinical depression, which was around like a year, 2 years ago. And one of the things, in addition to a lot of therapy, a lot of understanding my emotions, was getting my body to move and making it very intentional throughout the day. And that's all. I know these habits seem very small and some of them might even feel generic, but I honestly feel that these are the forms of self-care that truly make you feel better, nourished, and keep you going in the long run. It's like, watering a plant or taking care of a plant. Obviously, you can give it all the fancy fertilizers and all these chemicals, but what truly makes it grow is just watering it at the right time and taking care of it. It's the simpler things that don't cost any money and are not based on how we're externally perceived. I truly believe that women and our idea of self-care has been totally ruined because of how social media has perceived it to be, with like, oh, even shaving your hair these days is called self-care because you feel better afterwards. No. With this video, I just wanted to take one small step to change that and to motivate you to also explore different ways of taking care of yourself. And now I don't just want you to swipe away and like go on with your lives after watching this video. And I think the real change only comes when you take action right after watching a video. So here's what I want to do. I gave you 6 habits today, and that's a lot to implement. So I want you to pick 2 that resonated the most with you and put them down in the comments. Tell me, what are your big, small self-care habits that you are going to be implementing in 2025? And if you feel you have a big, small self-care habit that you'd like to share with me, please put it down below. So maybe I'll try it and then maybe I'll make a video about it. Okay, so you know the final drill. Put in your answer in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and then as always, I'm sending you a lot of love and sunshine all the way from Medellin in Colombia this time. Okay, cool. See you guys in the next video. Bye.